Hi there, Dawn Del Vecchio here, and this video is about holding space versus rescuing. There have been a few questions that have been arising in one of the women's communities that I'm part of on Facebook about how to help people when they come to us and they're suffering. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between rescuing and getting sort of sucked into other people's energy and holding space for transformation and holding space for people to have the opportunity to take responsibility for their own transformation. So maybe I'll frame this up by saying we are not designed, capable, intended to fix other people's problems. Now, there's some exceptions, conceptually at least, in that like, when you have certain skill sets, right? You can, like doctors can fix a broken bone, that sort of thing. I'm talking about this on a different level. I'm talking about when people are struggling from health issues, relationship issues, depression, things like that. Fear, difficult choices, money, finance, career, all of the sort of worldly struggles, but also the internal struggles, because the two are related. The internal informs the external and the external informs the internal. So when people are going through these things, there are many tools and gifts that some of us develop to assist, facilitate their empowerment, their transformation, their healing. And I want to really differentiate between facilitating and supporting their transformation and empowerment and being the source of healing. So when we see ourselves as the source of healing, we create a hierarchical relationship, and we also give ourselves perhaps a little bit more credit than we deserve. We can be the vessels of healing, for sure. We can bring through healing for others, and we can hold space and use our tools that we grow and develop and cultivate and learn to facilitate and support someone else in their healing journey. However, ultimately, it's their choice, either on a conscious or more often on a subconscious level and on a soul level, what that healing looks like and whether they actually heal in terms of what we think healing is. So where do I want to go with this? So that's kind of the bigger frame up. Now, when people come to us, sometimes if you've been working on yourself for a while, or if you're just a very kind and loving and generous person, you'll find that you become like a beacon, like a lighthouse for those who are really in struggle. They don't have the tools, the resources, the awareness, the perception, the perspective on how to get themselves out of whatever it is they're in. And so they see you as a beacon of light. And so they come to your shores, and they literally bring their ship up onto your shores and look for you to be the solution to their problems by offering the right word or the kindness or the this or the that. And this is where it's very important to understand that as a healer, helper, light worker, transformational leader, the key here is to offer guidance and to hold space for people to be where they are and to maybe provide them with tools or guidance to make steps in the right direction. But we can't step into the tomb of their misery in any way, shape, or form and expect to be in service. Can't do it. So there are two stories I want to share. One is from the Bible, I guess, from the New Testament. It's not; these are not typically metaphors I'm familiar with, but this one I learned when I was very young, and it really struck me, and it served me immensely as a transformational guide for people, and also as a mentor for those who wish to be healers or are on that healing path or the mentorship path. So this is the story of Lazarus and Lazarus's death. And so Lazarus, this is a character, a person from the stories of Jesus's life. And so Lazarus, Jesus is already on his teaching mission, and so people know about him. And Lazarus was a friend or from a similar, same community or nearby community. See, I don't even know that. And he passes, he dies, and he's put into a tomb, into a cave with a stone put over it. And his sisters are in deep mourning that their brother has passed, and they wish so much for some help. They wish so much that he could be alive. And so they go to Jesus and they ask Jesus if he could do anything. And so Jesus comes to the place where Lazarus is in the tomb, and he has some men move the stone out of the way. And Jesus stands there at the tomb, and he calls Lazarus from death to life. He does not step in the tomb. He calls Lazarus from death to life. And this story is a powerful metaphor for anyone who wants to be a helper, because we cannot help anyone if we step into the tomb of their death with them. In fact, what they will do is continue to drag us into their misery. The only thing we can really do is bring all the tools that we may have to bear as we stand at the gate and call them through the gate of death, through the gate from death, through the transformation into life. And so when you think metaphorically, you can think of that as like the death of depression, the death of mourning, the loss of a relationship, the death of an old way of being, the death of a habitual way of being a victim to life. That when someone is really suffering, there's a death, a letting go that needs to happen in order for them to step through the gate of transformation, in order to be born again, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. But we, as healers, helpers, transformational guides, teachers, mentors, and friends, and family, and sometimes moms and dads, we can't step in the tomb even with our children. We must stand at the gate between death and life and call them back to life. So I invite you to play with that metaphor a bit and to really tune into that. How are you possibly stepping into the tomb of another person's suffering? How are you standing at the gate, on the other side of the gate of transformation, and calling them, providing them with tools and insight, inviting them to reframe what's going on for them, or to access resources that could help them, or actually paying you to get that transformation with the tools that you have. So now I want to take this a level deeper. And I want to talk about secondary gains here, and talk about when people don't actually want to change, so they give lip service to the desire to change, but what they really want is the sympathy, the pity party, the collusion in suffering. And this is another story, but this is not biblical. This is it's from the book by a woman named Anne Cameron, who's a Native woman from the northwest of Canada, I think, or northwest of America, somewhere in there. I think northwest Canada and the Vancouver area, perhaps. So Anne Cameron, the book is called Daughters of Copper Woman. I believe it was written in the early 80s, maybe. It's a collection of short stories. And this is a story about the Women's Lodge. And it's about women gathering each month during their moon time to circle in the lodge for a couple days together, or maybe an evening. I don't remember. It's been years since I read the story. And this was a time for women to get together and share with each other, to tell stories, to ask for advice, to ask for assistance, to gain guidance. And this is a story of one woman who, at One Moon Lodge, she shares the story of her challenges, her difficulties, and I think they were in relationship, but it doesn't really matter. In other words, she's revealing, sharing, asking for feedback and assistance on a problem she is really struggling with. So the women of the lodge listen. They listen, they consider, and they offer her feedback and insight so that she can walk away from that lodge and for the next lunar month, begin to implement some new strategies, if you will. So the lodge ends for that month. They go about their lives for the month, and then the next moon lodge comes, and the women gather again in circle for this moon time to share and to learn and to be together. And again, when it comes around to this woman's turn, she shares the same dilemmas, the same problems, the same concerns, worries, etc. And again, the women listen and they consider deeply, and they share with her ideas, strategies, suggestions, and maybe saying them in different ways now. Perhaps she didn't understand or track with the way that they were first delivered. So they deliver basically the same information, but in a slightly different way. And so the lodge ends, they go about their month, they come back the next month for the next lodge, and again, when it comes time for this woman to share her difficulties or her story, whatever it is, victories, celebrations, struggles, same story, no change. She has implemented nothing of what she's been told, and she's really just in that state of, you could call victim or caught up in the loop of the story. So rather than listen again and give her feedback again, the women literally, silently, when she finishes, one by one, get up and leave the lodge. Harsh. However, it's a very powerful message, isn't it? Because when you offer advice, feedback, insight, support to someone again and again, and they don't want to make the change and they're not actually doing anything for themselves to take personal responsibility for the life that they are living, you are doing no service to them to continue to be in support of them. In fact, I think it's called enabling. So sit with that story as well. I think all of this, in a way, deepens into the concept of personal responsibility. And as we take that and loop it back around to the concept of holding space. Now, many of us are multimodality healers. We have many tools to bring to bear to assist others in creating transformation and healing in their lives. And those tools are important and they're valuable, and we love to give and we love to help. However, when we give to someone who is not actually willing to take personal responsibility, then our tools are, it's that old saying, casting pearls before swine. They're unappreciated. And so as you go about in your life, connecting with friends, family, loved ones, maybe you're circling up with sisters or brothers, really, first of all, acknowledge your willingness to hold space and hold the container when you witness a friend or loved one or ally in suffering deeply. Hold that space. Allow them to feel deeply what it is they need to feel. And then if and when you recognize that your services or someone else you know or guidance or a book or recommendation would be of service, by all means, offer it, present it. And if time and again you're noticing that this person is actually not making any effort to be response-able to commit to the transformation within themselves, it is time to walk out of the lodge with love, with kindness. And so I hope this is helpful for you. I invite your questions, curiosities, feedback, and you can find me at my YouTube channel here or on my website, dawndelvecchio.com. And for all of you who are holding space, who are providing powerful healing and transformational services in the world, I thank you. And I offer this with deep gratitude for your work, deep appreciation and encouragement to stay the path and that the work you do matters. So thank you. Many blessings.